Whew. Man, I only had one cup of coffee and now I'm getting the jitters.
Yeah.
Like,
This will be my first.
is this coffee ninja getting weaker and weaker and more susceptible to the jittering of coffee?
Possibly.
This does not bode well, dear listeners. This is sad because I was gonna start designing new coffee ninja merch and stuff.
Oh.
I was gonna have you help me out with that, Hannah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll still do it.
Okay, good.
No one needs to know.
That's true. That's true. Oh, shoot!
What's up?
I pressed the record button like 2 minutes ago.
Oh, no worries, man.
So yeah, I guess you guys know. I'm gonna go with a corner.
Well, how am I going to do this episode on my own, though?
You make a fair point. Okay, I'm back.
Hello, everyone. This is Hannah. I am doing this episode alone because Donald is cowering in shame for some reason. We're going to be talking about shame and how, as General Iroh says, pride is not the source of shame, but its source. Wait a second.
But no, I'm back. We mentioned Iroh. We mentioned Iroh. We mentioned Best Dad.
Pride is not the opposite of shame, but its source. And now I am experiencing shame. Pride is not the opposite of shame, but its source. Google. You must learn to take your pride and throw it out the window. Only then you'll be able to redirect lightning like me. You need to put on a few pounds, though. It works better that way.
Okay, this is staying in the episode. This is going to be playing before the intro. This is going to be playing before the intro music.
Goodness.
Future Donald editing the episode. Put in the music now. Just do it. Just go. Okay, now that we've got ourselves under control a little bit. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and all of you in between, to the General Geekery Podcast, the podcast where we geek out about all that we love to geek out about, with no remorse, no regrets, and with all of the enthusiasm in the world. And now I have slipped into my Kermit the Frog voice.
Indeed, Prince Zuko.
We have replaced Hannah and Donald. It is now Kermit the Frog and Uncle Iroh taking control of this episode of the General Geekery Podcast.
Yes, it's going to be a hard time.
But in all seriousness, guys, as always, this is your resident coffee ninja by day, actor, gamer, and streamer by night, Donald Kaczynski, back once again. And joining me as always is the dice slinger extraordinaire, artiste magnificent, maestro herself, Hannah Kubiak.
Hello.
Oh my goodness. I needed that laugh. That laugh was great.
Yeah.
So today we're touching back on one of our older episodes from like half a year ago, and this was honestly, and I remember this was actually like one of my favorite episodes to record. So back in, let's see, this is episode
I have notes
60.
on this one,
Yeah,
so it must have been.
So back in June of the dark year of 2020, we did an episode talking about our favorite female protagonists in fiction. And we ended up getting a lot of different responses back from a lot of people. We touched on a lot of different protagonists in different media. We touched on Major Kusanagi from the Ghost in the Shell series. We touched on oh god, what was the name of the Jodie Foster's character from Silence of the Lambs?
Clarice Starling?
Yes, Starling. Thank you. Mm-hmm. and many others. And I remember there was a big one that we had missed that a lot of people said that we had missed. I remember like the Monday after we released that episode, it was actually on Loaded Dice Adventures when you had mentioned it, and all your fellow castmates said you forgot one big one.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in personal shame because I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe we forgot this one. So it's been this long plan of mine because I was like, I personally need to rectify this. So this is our second part of some of our favorite female protagonists, or just female characters in general.
Yeah,
in
general, yeah.
in fiction, and we want to talk about and before we start recording, Hannah brought this up too. We want to talk about like some of the aspects that makes like them so much more interesting to watch for
like
us
characters in general. Like maybe try and figure out sort of what makes a good character, and then maybe why when people write female characters, some of these things are missing for some reason.
Yeah, because
in life they're not, but for some reason in fiction, people have trouble connecting good, like the what I call the Holy Trinity of character traits to female characters.
What was the Holy Trinity again, just for context?
Well, for a character to be an interesting character, they need to either they need to have two of these three things. They need to be a good person.
Good person.
Good person. They have to be good at what they do, so capable, and or they need to be funny.
Fair enough.
So some examples of that are, let's see. So Sherlock, from Sherlock, he is good at his job and he's funny, but he's not really a good person.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. That you could pretty much say that on Sherlock for anything, any version of Holmes.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think of another one. Jessica Jones is definitely funny. And like
true.
She's good at her job, but I think also this one kind of I'm not quite sure, because I think that she's a good person. I just think that she has a really, really thick skin.
That really comes from like her PTSD, like in show.
Yeah, if you see her in like flashbacks and stuff, like even after the car crash that killed her family, she was okay, like she would still smile and she was still like a happy person. But then that stuff happened with Kilgrave and it went.
Did we touch on Jessica Jones?
We did, yeah. She's on my list here, so I assume.
Okay, we did touch on her before. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because I still love that series, and that was a great one.
Yeah. So she's a tricky one. I think I've been toying with the idea that maybe something that makes a good character too is there's maybe something that, because, sorry, there's a fine line between like pitying someone and despising them.
Oh yeah.
So like feeling sorry for the person, like if something has happened to them and it seems like they don't deserve it, something bad happened to them.
Right.
Like I think Aibileen in The Help is kind of like this, where she's a good person, and she does her job really well. She's a really good nanny for this girl, and a really good housekeeper. And you feel really bad for her because of all of the all the racist behavior directed towards her.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, there are a couple of female characters that I really want to bring up that I know we haven't talked about, and we should probably get the big one out of the way. Otherwise, we're never going to get to her, and I'm never going to be able to live with myself for not bringing her up 2 times in a row.
Yeah.
Ellen Ripley from Alien, from the Alien series, one of the most iconic female characters in fiction, and we missed her the first time. I have still not forgiven myself for not bringing her up, because I love the Alien series. Alien and Aliens are probably 2 of like my favorite horror films of all time. I consider them horror films.
Yeah, they are. They are a horror film, just happens to take place in space.
And especially with Ripley just becoming this iconic, like, badass character. And it was the role that put Sigourney Weaver, like, in the map as, like, queen of sci-fi.
Yeah.
So, for those not familiar with the character of Ellen Ripley, what are you doing? How have you not seen Alien? She was one of 7 crew members on the ship Nostromo in the original Alien. So as they're, if I remember this correctly, it's been so long since I've seen the original Alien, but I can remember it clear as day. Actually, 2 fun things about Alien. John Hurt and Ian Holm were in it.
Oh yeah.
The alien popping out of the guy's stomach, it popped out of John Hurt's stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ian Holm was the android Ash.
Yeah.
It's so weird going back on it and just like relearning all that, and I'm just like, oh my god, it's true. But oh, phone.
That was my phone ringing.
But yeah, basically they're basically on a they're on a return to Earth. It's not like it's on a commercial like space craft. They stumble upon a planet that they investigate, and ultimately John Hurt's character gets infected, gets attacked by a facehugger, and is implanted with the alien embryo. And as they're turning back to Earth before they go back into cryo sleep, the chest burster bursts forth from John Hurt's stomach, and the alien starts picking them all off one by one until Ripley is the only survivor.
Mm-hmm.
She is the only survivor of that entire incident. Ultimately, the ship gets blown up, and she's just drifting through space at the end of it before going back into cryosleep.
Yeah.
And for those of you that have not seen Alien, it is a wonderful, wonderful thriller of just enclosed space. It's something about the essence of space that really can heighten up tension in a horror film, especially when it comes to close quarters type of tension.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fact that you're trapped somewhere and you can't leave is and you can't leave is part of what makes a horror story so horrifying. Is the idea that you can't just escape, basically.
Yep. And then somehow inexplicably, Aliens not only was arguably possibly better than the original Alien, but also made Ripley so much more badass.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she wakes up in cryosleep like, oh god, almost half a century later. Like her daughter, we figure, I don't know if it was, I don't remember if it was alluded to in the previous Alien, but Ripley was a mom.
Oh.
And she had a daughter, Amanda, that was left on Earth, and by the time she was woken up from cryosleep, Amanda's either like a very, very old woman, or she's dead. I don't exactly remember. And so she has this just sense of guilt and like overwhelmingness, because it's like it's been 50 years, and they didn't find her for 50 years, and she's like, oh god, and then all of a sudden she gets talked into going back out there to by the Weyland-Yutani corporation in order to, like, what was it, hunt down, like, the remains of, like, the aliens or something.
Yeah.
And she turns into this gun-toting badass when we get introduced to this xenomorph alien queen, and it's like, yes!
Yeah, with this giant flamethrower. And, like, I really enjoyed... Is that the one where there's that little girl that she saves from wherever it is, but then even though the girl is safe and stuff, she just goes back in there. It's just like a vengeance tour of the compound. Is that... Yeah.
Yes. I believe it is. That's right. Because because the little girl was the only survivor of the station that was there. She was the only one to survive.
Yeah.
I had almost completely forgotten about that.
Yeah.
And also, like, it also helped that, like, she stood out among, like, the pack of a strong supporting cast in Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Aliens, in my opinion, probably has, like, one of the best, like, ensemble supporting casts, like, of any movie.
Yeah.
Shout out to Hudson. Love you, Bill Paxton. May you rest in peace. Game over, man. Game over. And God, it's so great looking back on it. And I'll never get over it. And even in the weakest of all Alien films, Ripley just shines.
Mm-hmm.
Like, part of it is Sigourney Weaver herself, which is like, slay queen, slay. But we see this, like, metamorphosis, like, into this hardened, like, warrior, just, like, going after everything, especially with, like, how it differs between the first Alien, where it was just one of them, and then she's facing off this entire freaking colony of them with a flamethrower. It's like,
yeah, where she sort of becomes more than just the one who survived. Like, they're basically just trying to survive in the first movie, and then in the second movie, like, she doesn't just have this thing on board her ship, and you just have to run. You know, instead she, like, goes after it, basically.
She goes Space John Rambo on all of them.
Oh yeah, that's the illusion I was looking for. Rambo, yeah.
Which is like, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but also there's that sort of, I guess, the sort of caretaker quality of making sure that girl was safe first and everything, finding her.
Mm-hmm.
And then not just being that person who takes care of everybody else. But I mean, it is kind of twisted that what she really needed was revenge, but to go and get what she needed as well.
All right.
And I guess they did need to be eradicated as well. So.
Yeah. She only went just because like she wanted all of them to die.
Mm-hmm.
So can't really say that I blame her, considering what happened in the first one.
Yeah. No, that's.
But yeah, like, she has exploded into, like, her name has basically been ingrained in pop culture. And she's been an influence on a lot of different things, like, for both men and women in general.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite, like, Twitch streamers to watch recently named his newborn baby girl after Ripley.
Oh, I was just thinking to myself, I said that would be a good name for a kid.
Yeah. Shout out to Maximilian, dude. Congrats again to you and JJ. I'm so proud of you too. But yeah, Aliens was like his favorite movie of all time, and he loves Ripley as a character. So he decided, since they were gonna have a baby girl, they agreed to name their daughter Ripley.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, yes! Such a strong name.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And I think, like, when it comes to, like, female protagonists and characters, like, in a series like that, where you get to see more sides of them as, like, the series progresses, character growth is, like, a strong thing to analyze when it comes to characters like that.
Yeah.
Because, like we said, the difference between Ripley and Alien 1 and Aliens is very, very different.
Yeah.
There's a very distinct difference. But it's still the same character, where, like, it's a natural progression, and it feels real and just natural and just relatable.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And speaking of character growth, it brings me to another character. I do not believe we brought her up in the first one, because I know you hadn't seen Clone Wars, but we also mentioned her in our episode on The Mandalorian, so I have to bring her up, Ahsoka Tano.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
One of the finest additions to the Star Wars universe post-movies.
Yep.
And the crazy thing is, she was not that well received upon initial release of the Clone Wars.
Wow.
Because she came off as incredibly bratty and a little stuck up. Which is partially to be expected, because she's still a youngling and she was still a Padawan.
Oh.
But as the series progressed and the years of the Clone Wars took its toll on all of our characters, you see this growth in her character being more assertive, but learning from all the mistakes that she has, especially with like Anakin as her teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And finding herself in all these situations and growing from it. And then you see her growth past Clone Wars leading into other series such as Rebels, and then, of course, continuing on in live action with Mandalorian and moving forward.
Yeah. Here's a question.
Possible
Do
answer?
you think that there's sort of a like the expectations we have for young characters, like Padawan characters, and her being a woman instead of
a boy?
A boy, yeah. Because, like, if I recall correctly, like, well, I haven't seen Clone Wars still, but I have seen Rebels, and like Ezra is kind of a like street rat, whippersnapper, kind of talking back, kind of
Okay.
like young man, where he does like impulsive, dumb stuff and all this stuff. But then you're like, oh well, he's a kid, you know, he'll grow out of it. But do you think maybe there's sort of like less tolerance for that with Ahsoka, because you're like, oh well, she's a girl, she's supposed to be more mature, and she's supposed to not be troublesome.
I think that's honestly has less to do with like the character point of that, and just more of the fact of just how Star Wars was in general. Because I mean, before the Clone Wars television series, like the prequel trilogy left the sour taste in like a lot of people's mouths when it came to Star Wars. Regardless of Episode 3 actually being a good, decently made film and entry in the series. But there was always like a worriness of like, oh no, like, oh, we're going back on prequels and this, like we were expecting so much cringe. I think it was more the fact we put ourselves in the mindset that most of the stuff was going to be bad at the time.
Okay.
But also at the same time, I can understand where you're coming from, because there is kind of like an underlying like hypocrisy almost kind of when it comes to analyzing both male and female characters of same standing. There's kind of like an entrenched expectation in the general mind of that kind of like statuette is like, oh, boys will be boys and all that kind of stuff, and then you have Ahsoka, and the same thing is just like, oh my god, it's just like, no,
yeah, we're like, boys will be boys, but then you're like, oh, what a bitch, you know.
like it's not always shown, and honestly, like it's dealt with much better nowadays, just because like people are becoming much more like critical thinkers when analyzing shows and the like. But at the same time, like there's still like a general underlying thing with like of instant reaction toward that.
Yeah, I mean, people have people have initial reactions, but that doesn't really have to be what you stick with. Like, you can apply your critical thinking as well,
right?
You know, and just be like, wait a minute, am I judging this person more harshly because of like their gender or their race or something?
Which
just because I happen to come from a background where that's how people usually judge somebody, from, you know, like just thinking about how you think about thinking.
And when it comes,
that's a fun thing to do.
And when it comes to characters in fiction, especially fictional characters on television in movies, that kind of thinking usually crops up more often than not. Because the difference between characters on a screen as opposed to characters in paperback, in books. Yeah. With books, you have your imagination to fill in the blanks of like terms of appearance. Like there can be descriptors in the book to form that image in your mind, and you can let your imagination run wild from there. As opposed to a screen, you have a full-on representation. You both see, hear, and get the feeling, like an extrasensory feeling from both your sight and your hearing of a character you're seeing on screen. And automatically impulsory reacting to that kind of thing. And that's a kind of thing like for a lot of people, like critical thinking when it comes to analyzing characters usually comes at different points in their life. Sometimes people don't go on that impulse. But in terms of like you and me, where our basic our entire careers requires us to critically think about like different actions characters take because we're actors. And we watch a lot of stuff all the time where we analyze, okay, so what's the point behind this? What drives this feeling?
Yeah.
We tend to be more open-minded to try to ingest facts and information that is given to us through that, and then coming up with our reactions to that instead of being completely impulsory.
Yeah. So I have a story about this actually, which is kind of it's based on what happened while I was watching a movie that I actually didn't really like its feminist representations. I talked about it in episode 62, Captain Marvel.
Oh boy.
So it had a lot of, like I said before, like the thing where it was just overtly feminist stuff, to the point where it was kind of condescending almost.
Yeah.
But I have sort of, so you know, the whole thing about like preconceptions and like instinctual reactions to people based on their gender and based on like your own gender. So do you remember the end of Captain Marvel when it's just Jude Law and her at the end? Okay. And at the beginning they had been like sparring and stuff, and he'd been like telling her all this stuff like, no, don't use your powers, just go hand to hand with me, and you have to be able to do it that way. Like basically just saying like not so much a sort of like I like patriarchy thing where it's like oh no, you have to be just like a man. Like he didn't say that exactly. He just said like just be just like me, you know.
Okay.
Like you have to beat me on my level, which for her actually meant she had to come down a level because she had all these powers, you know.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, there's sort of like a sort of it harkens back to that where she's been just, you know, tearing through these spaceships, destroyed a whole fleet with like her newfound powers and everything. And it's just him and her at the end. And he said, "Come on, just you and me, hand to hand, like prove to me that you can do that." And then she just like blasts him once, and that's the end because she can. But when that happened, when she was like doing all this stuff, he was being all powerful, exploding things and all that, and I was like, oh my gosh, like she's really powerful. She has a lot of agency. She can do all this stuff like better than most people. But then when the Jude Law character was saying like, yeah, we should just fight me hand to hand, just you, just me, no powers, none of your bullshit, you know. And when he said that, my reaction in my brain was, I was like, oh man, I guess she's gonna have to fight him without her powers then. But she didn't do that. But just the fact that that was my reaction was that, oh, this man told her not to be her and not to use all of her agency and not to use all of her power that she has. And my immediate reaction was to say, well, of course. Of course, enough. You're right. I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be using my like advantages and my extra skills. Like I should be just like him because that's better, even though I have more, you know, like just the fact that that was my reaction sort of threw me a little bit.
Fair enough.
I was like, yeah, whereas like I have abilities that other people don't have, but I've been told that those abilities don't matter, that they're the wrong abilities, and I need to have different abilities and do things in a different way that I can't, but they say that I should be able to. Like just my reaction to that one little instance was very weird.
Yeah, I
kind of realized that like, oh yeah, you know, I limit myself and put myself down all the time and put myself in a box because I'm not what society at large expects me to be.
Right.
So that was really long-winded, but
yeah,
you get my drift.
Yeah, I get your drift on that. But I'm actually glad you brought that up because I wanted to. I know I've alluded to this several different times on the podcast, and you've always wondered my personal opinion. Captain Marvel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in my opinion, is not a good example of a good female protagonist or character. And big part about that is because I don't see a growth of character with it, at least one that's not believable. Like you discover all this. Oh, I can't even remember fully clearly because I've wiped this movie from my memory just because I hate it. And I hate saying that I hate saying that I hate it, but so you compare the Captain Marvel to something like the movie Wonder Woman that was released in 2017. Now you have two different. Both these characters have incredible power and are far beyond like what normal human limitations in their respective worlds. Captain like, with Captain Marvel, it just seems like she's going by story beats of this goes there, that goes there, bing, boom, that. I don't see a natural progression of a growth of character with Captain Marvel. Whereas in Wonder Woman's case, I see something more natural because she grew up in this society of mostly females and was brought up in this warrior way, but was introduced into a entirely different kind of world where she didn't understand any of this, and she discovers that her black and white picture of how the world works does not coincide with reality. And you see that progression through that. But even through that, she sticks to her morals in order to do what she believes is right. She doesn't change in the fact that like she changes like her perceptions and her principles and things like that. She grows as an understanding of like maybe something isn't as black and white as how I originally thought everything worked. And that's the thing that I like in any characters. This is not just... I accidentally muted my mic. Sorry about that.
Say, I will never know.
So this is just something that I just like in just characters in general. This is not like a male-female kind of thing. But if you have a character that has a code a moral code that they follow and are very strict and devoted to, but through time they learn from these experiences that challenges their conceptions of like what's right and what's wrong, and can come into conflict with that moral code that they have, but find a way to stick to those morals while understanding more about the world around them and trying to understand and be more accepting of reality. That's a much more interesting like growth as compared to Captain Marvel's, oh, who am I? Oh, I have all this power. Okay, I guess I'll go into space and use it.
Yeah. Okay. So in the case of Wonder Woman, like her moral code influences the way that she uses her power, and then Captain Marvel, it's just like power for power's sake kind of thing.
That's what it feels like to me personally.
Ah, okay.
Because then you see Captain Marvel's like interaction with all of the rest of the Avengers in Avengers Endgame, and she's just showing up everyone in there because she's like, I'm much more powerful than all of this. And in my mind, I'm like, this does not feel earned. Mainly because we're only introduced to her like a movie prior to like the ultimate like thing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, when she's up against all these other characters that we have had a decade exploring and growing with. So that's my thing on that, is that with Captain Marvel's story in that situation and in the way they told her initial origin, it did not feel natural, and it did not feel earned. Whereas in Wonder Woman's case, even though she was originally introduced in an earlier movie that was mainly centered on Batman and Superman, she stood out on her own, and we didn't even know like how her origin started in that particular universe. So when you got around to her origin and you started understanding like her beliefs and everything like that, you can easily identify like how she feels and learn from that.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
Cool. Oh, I love it.
Any thoughts on that particular one, Hannah?
No, I was just listening. I was just a witness, man.
All right. I just didn't know if you had anything to ask about that or anything related to that. So I got a little on the passionate side on that. I apologize, dear listeners.
Yeah. Oh no, I was doing that earlier. So
fair enough. If there are any Captain Marvel lovers out there that disagree with my statement, please DM me. I will be glad to offer more.
Do not DM me. I hate conflict, and I'm really bad at it.
Oh no, don't worry. you can leave Hannah out of it. I will take the full brunt of that force.
Man.
But yeah, I'm passionate about characters. Like, it doesn't matter if it's like male or female, but I'm just passionate about like all of that kind of character growth in general.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
which is why like I love like characters that have that kind of growth. Ripley, Ahsoka, and even Wonder Woman in her respective film. And keep in mind, Wonder Woman has a lot more background just overall compared to the previous two. I mean, Wonder Woman's been around since the 1940s.
Yeah.
So, my goodness.
Yeah.
Any
Let's
other characters that we can possibly bring up?
Oh goodness, I'm trying to think here. Let's see. Who did we talk about last time? I have my notes right here. Always have my notes.
Thank goodness you have your notes, because I forgot to write down everyone we talked about last time.
Mm-hmm.
I am horrible. I am horrible, dear listener. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I mean, that's why I'm here. Is we do things differently. Oh, it's this one. Okay, I have so many papers. So many papers. Okay, yeah. Let's see. We talked about Jessica Jones, Lagertha from Vikings, the Major from Ghost in the Shell, Catherine from The Great,
Ooh.
Clarice, Dana Scully from The X-Files.
Oh God, I forgot we mentioned X-Files in that.
Yeah, Furiosa from Mad Max: Fury Road.
Ooh, yeah, that was a good one.
Which I just love her story and everything. She's another one of those characters that you kind of reminded me of. It's the same kind of woman that Cara Dune is, where you kind of forget that like a huge deal was not made of the fact that she was a woman.
True.
You know, which I always really appreciate, you know.
Fair.
Yeah, and just her toughness and her bravery, and also just her compassion and need for justice to be done by like rescuing all of Immortan Joe's, like, what were they, like his breeders or whatever? Like there were all these women that he held prisoner and like forced them to have his children.
because of course in dystopia worlds like that.
Yeah. That's what women are for in a dystopia, didn't you know? Anyway, sorry.
Thanks, fictional media.
My bitterness got a hold of me.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I do not blame you one bit.
Awesome. Let's see.
Did we bring up Princess Leia at all?
No.
So in reference to Space Mom.
Yeah.
I think there is a big reason why Princess Leia is probably like one of the greatest science fiction characters of all time. And God, I love her.
She is a, let's see. Let's use the Holy Trinity here.
Let's reference the Holy Trinity. Hannah, take it away.
She is good at her job. She is a leader and a strategist. That's the role that I see her in the most often, is like there's, you know, the strike team going out, they're going to go and blow up the Death Star, they're going to go on a mission or whatever. Like she's always she's briefing them about it. She's at the helm. She's like at the switchboard giving directions, like Grandmaster of Puppets, kind of. Like
Yeah.
like Ender in Ender's Game, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just big picture person. Strategy, leadership. She's the bomb at that. So yeah, she's good at what she does. I would say she's a good person.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And yeah, just as a leader, she can be harsh when she has to be, but she also is kind. She gives second chances. Like, okay, one of my favorite are well, not an argument, but my favorite point to make about Princess Leia is so in the movie The Last Jedi, you know.
Oh, here we go. I know exactly where you're going with this, and I'm ready.
Okay, so here's the thing. A lot of people have said that movie suffers a lot from a lot of man hate, where like it's Poe doing kind of impulsive, dumb things, and then Leia like shutting him down, you know. But I would like to say that instead of this being a woman berating a man about his stupid actions, I would say that it is about a experienced leader who is trying to give a younger, less experienced leader a little bit of tough love to teach him how to be a better leader, because she knows she's not going to be around forever. So just clinging to her power and like her leadership and like not letting anybody else take the reins or take point, that's not her at all. So like, you know, the whole thing where he mutinies while she's incapacitated in the hospital. He runs this whole mutiny, and then she comes up onto the bridge and stuns him. And if somebody was focused on, if a leader like Leia was focused on herself and being in charge, she would have had him thrown into the brig and left there, you know, and you know, very strict measures would be taken with him. And I think that she was very strict with him. But she didn't just say, okay, you've made a mistake, now you're done. You know, she instead later on, like, well, she gives him another chance. And later on, when they're all in the cave and they're looking for a way to escape, and he has an idea, he's like, I think those crystal foxes, they know the way out. We should probably follow them. And then he starts to go, and everybody hesitates, and they look at Leia because they know that she told him off earlier, so they probably shouldn't just listen to him.
Didn't she say something along the lines of like, don't look at me?
She said, don't look at me, follow him. So she, in that moment, was like, yeah, she was sort of, she forgave him for his foolhardiness, gave him a second chance, and gave him an opportunity to be a leader again, because he's a good leader. He's just not experienced.
Exactly, and they actually alluded that to like at the very beginning of the film after the entire bombing run, where he said something along the lines of like, all those that went down are heroes, and she said, we don't need heroes, we need leaders.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically that is basically just like experience, like clashing in that regard.
Yeah. So that's not a battle of the sexes at all, I don't think. It's a battle of generations, and it's a very wise person handing over the reins to somebody who they have been teaching like how to be in charge, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And and spoiler alert, she ends up not being around at a certain point.
We miss you every single damn day, Carrie. Every damn day.
So that's my spiel about that movie.
And also, if you need a real concrete evidence as to why Leia is a badass, Episode 6, she basically became a slave to Jabba the Hutt wearing one of the most revealing outfits I've ever seen in sci-fi, choked him with his own chain, and blew up his entire sand cruiser looking like a badass.
Pretty much. Yeah.
You don't mess with Space Mom.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you kind of think about that and you're like, what a humiliating situation, but...
And Carrie owned it. Was she uncomfortable? Yes, she even admitted to it.
Mm-hmm.
But did she come out looking like a goddamn godslayer when she was doing it? You're damn right she did.
Mm-hmm. No.
I will absolutely take that. I will absolutely take that any day of the week. Thank you very much. Yeah. But yeah, she's one of the most like enduring, like strong female characters for a reason, and and Leia Organa is beloved for a massive reason.
Yeah.
God, I love Star Wars. We've been quoting it too much this year.
Yeah.
It's only been the first month of 2021, and we've already had like 3 episodes where we've been referencing Star Wars nonstop.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, why not, man?
Ba ba ba. All right. Well, is there any other female characters that I feel like we should touch up upon?
There's probably some. Yeah, let us know if there are any more you'd want us to talk about. I think that sometime we should talk about just like character building in general. I would love to have a whole conversation about my Holy Trinity. That would be awesome.
Yes, that would actually be incredibly great. We will definitely schedule an episode for that. And yeah, dear listeners, what do you guys think? What are some of your favorite female characters in fiction? Whether they're protagonists, side characters, or the like, whichever. Let us know in the descriptions for each episode, either on YouTube or wherever they are on social media. Just leave a little comment saying what's some of your favorite female characters in fiction. Let us know. On that note, I think we can pretty much wrap it up at that.
Yep.
All right.
So too.
Yay! Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the General Geekery Podcast, a revisit of some of our favorite female characters in fiction. If you guys like what you've been listening to, make sure to follow us wherever we can be found. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, and on my personal YouTube channel at Anime Rev Productions, as well as many other services as well. If you want to follow us on social media, be sure to follow us on Instagram at General Geekery and on Facebook and Twitter at Gen Geek Podcast. And if you guys want to support the show in any way, shape, or form, please, you can pledge to our Patreon at patreon.com/General Geekery, the link of which will be in the description of each of our episodes, as well as on our social media sites as well. On Patreon, you can get exclusive access to a multitude of different exclusives, including early access to all of our episodes. Future projects coming up. I already have a couple of things in the works. And in the future, possible reactions for certain topics that we do. And you can also check out some of Hannah's rambling notes on there of what goes on in her mind when researching for the podcast.
It is a horrifying place, but oh so interesting.
It's quite entertaining, I must say. So Hannah, where can they check you out at?
Well, you can find me rolling dice with my party every Monday at 7:30 Central on twitch.tv/Loaded Dice Adventures. We're playing in a homebrew world called Avenaria. I play Petra, the Dragonborn Ranger Rogue, and we are looking for dragons and the undead kings in the north. So lots of zombies, undead things, which I really enjoy because they are my favorite enemy, which means that they are my least favorite. That was longer than usual. They're my favorite thing to kill. You can also find me on the SPLANCHNIC podcast, which is a podcast that I do with my mom, where we talk about art, books, movies, and tabletop gaming, all from the perspective of two different generations. And if you would like to follow me on Instagram, you can find me at Pythian Legume.
Excellent. And as for me, guys, you can check me out on Twitter and Instagram at RyuzakiMK7, and you can also follow me on Twitch as well at RyuzakiMK7. I do a multitude of different games. Most of them are RPG-based, but you can always check me out doing fun voices, especially when the games do not have voice acting. I do my own on-the-spot voice acting. It's always a lot of fun. And I love interacting with those that come by in the chat. So stop on by and say hi. Love to have you around. And I think that's going to be it for us. This has been episode 64 of the General Geekery Podcast. Thank you all for listening again. For Hannah Kubiak, I'm Donald Kaczynski. And until next time, guys, keep watching your favorite characters battle it out. If you haven't seen Alien, go watch it. Ripley is a godsend. But always remember to keep your geek on.
Always.
Clink, clink. All right.
The remote ones, I have to make sure I have 2 cups.
Well, at least you're more prepared than I am. I'll say that.
The illusion alive.
Bye, guys.
No, my illusion.